The Second World War was largely precipitated by the expansionist policies and aggressive actions of several nations, most notably Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. These nations pursued territorial expansion and sought to revise the international order established by the Treaty of Versailles and other post-World War I treaties. Here's how these expansionist policies contributed to the outbreak of World War II. Nazi Germany's expansionist ambitions. Hitler's ideology of Lebensraum, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party pursued the concept of Lebensraum, which called for the expansion of German territory to the east. Hitler believed that the German people needed more land to sustain their population and that this land should be taken from inferior Slavic peoples, particularly in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. Germany began rearming in violation of the Treaty of Versailles almost immediately after Hitler came to power in 1933. In 1936, Hitler remilitarized the Rhineland, a region that had been demilitarized under the treaty, challenging the post-World War I order and testing the resolve of Britain and France. Germany's expansionist moves continued with the Anschluss, or annexation of Austria, in 1938, and the occupation of the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia, later that year. In March 1939, Hitler violated the Munich Agreement by occupying the rest of Czechoslovakia, demonstrating that his ambitions went beyond merely uniting ethnic Germans. The invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, was the direct trigger for World War II. This invasion was a key part of Hitler's expansionist goals and led Britain and France to declare war on Germany, marking the start of the global conflict. Fascist Italy's expansionist policies. Italy, under Benito Mussolini, sought to expand its influence in Africa and the Mediterranean. Mussolini aimed to recreate a new Roman Empire and pursued aggressive expansionist policies to achieve this vision. In 1935, Italy invaded Ethiopia, then known as Abyssinia, a move that was condemned by the League of Nations but not effectively opposed. The lack of a strong international response encouraged further aggression by the Axis powers. Italy also intervened in the Spanish Civil War from 1936 to 1939 on the side of Francisco Franco's nationalists. This involvement was part of Mussolini's broader strategy to spread fascism and increase Italian influence in Europe. Italy's expansionist ambitions also extended to the Balkans. In 1939, Italy invaded Albania and made it a protectorate, further destabilizing the region and contributing to the tensions leading up to World War II. Imperial Japan's expansionist drive. Japan pursued aggressive expansionist policies in East Asia, driven by a desire for natural resources and territorial dominance. Japan's militaristic government sought to establish a Greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere, which aimed to create a self-sufficient bloc of Asian nations led by Japan and free of Western influence. In 1931, Japan invaded and occupied Manchuria, establishing the puppet state of Manchukuo. This was a clear act of aggression that violated the League of Nations principles, but the international response was weak, encouraging further Japanese expansion. In 1937, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China, starting the Second Sino-Japanese War. The brutal conflict saw widespread atrocities, including the Nanking Massacre, and further isolated Japan from the international community. Japan's expansionist ambitions ultimately led to conflicts with Western powers, particularly the United States, which imposed economic sanctions in response to Japanese aggression. Japan's desire to secure resources and territories in Southeast Asia contributed to its decision to attack Pearl Harbor in 1941, bringing the United States into World War II. The League of Nations, established to prevent future conflicts after World War I, proved ineffective in stopping the aggressive actions of Germany, Italy and Japan. Its inability to enforce sanctions or take decisive action against these nations emboldened them to pursue their expansionist goals without fear of significant repercussions. The policy of appeasement, most notably pursued by Britain and France, allowed the Axis powers to expand without facing immediate military opposition. The Munich Agreement of 1938, which allowed Hitler to annex the Sudetenland, is a prime example of this policy, which ultimately failed to prevent war. The expansionist policies and aggressive actions of Germany, Italy and Japan were key drivers of the Second World War. Their territorial ambitions, coupled with the failure of international institutions to check their aggression, led to the outbreak of a global conflict that reshaped the world.